welcome back. The time is 6:36. You are watching and listening to Breakfast with Martin and Ellie. And we are talking today about your favourite things. What are the things in your life that bring you joy, that put a smile on your face, that really brighten up your life? And we're talking about this because on page 3 of the Daily Mail today, it's Life's Simple Pleasures, the top 20. So lovely list, this one. Number 1 is actually a random act of kindness. You know, so somebody perhaps opening the door for you, or paying for your coffee, or, you know, something very simple like that. Slipping into freshly laundered sheets, I can understand that one. Receiving an unexpected gift is number 3. Packing for a sunny holiday, that's a lovely feeling, isn't it? And down at number 20 is an afternoon nap, which is what I'll be doing later.
I like that one there, number 6, discovering forgotten cash in your pocket. And if I find a fiver in a suit jacket, I'm made up.
Yeah, it's
for the
a
whole
great
day.
feeling.
Oh, what, fiver now doesn't even buy you a pint in a lot of pubs.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, it's the random act of finding it really does put a little spring in my step.
It's lovely, isn't it? And you said tea. Tea is one of your random joys. That's on there, number 13. So we've been asking you today, what are your favourite things in life? What are the things that bring you joy? Lots of you getting in touch. David says, what makes me happy is a nice trip on a Saturday morning to the garden centre. I like to go for breakfast and a browse.
Totally. And Karen, this is an attainable goal that we can all do. Karen, I love slipping into my PJs after work and chilling.
Yeah, and that's what I like about this list. It's simple things.
Yeah.
You know, we don't spend money. Keith in Anglesey says it's the sight of the sea when you're driving to the coast on a seaside holiday. That first sight of the sea, that is a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, I always say that to my kids. First to spot the sea, we'll get an ice cream, and now they're like, well, we'll both get one anyway, Dad. So even they're grizzled cynics. And interestingly...
Well, they have been raised by you, Martin.
True. But we all get a little bit more cynical because the peak age of being chilled by these things is...
Yeah, 32.
32.
It's apparently the age that we feel the most joy.
And after that, it's all downhill.
Apparently, according to the Daily Mail. Yeah. And Alicia says, for me, there are 3 favourite things. The first is freshly cut grass, then the smell of a casserole cooking, and fresh bread, and then a bed with crisp white linen. That's nice, isn't it?
That sounds like an ideal little day there.
It's a nice ideal day.
We'll have a nice bit of food and crack on for an early night. I think you've got it nailed, Alicia.
Lovely. It's making me smile hearing about your favourite things. And we need that today because the news is very, very heavy. So do keep them coming in. What are your favourite things? What puts a smile on your face? What brings light to your life? Do share with us today. GBNEWS at gbnews.com.
OK, and now let's bring you up to date with the rest of the morning's front pages.
Which might not be filled with joyful things, I'm afraid.
That's true, because the Eye reports on the so-called Atlantic Declaration. Britain and US rewrite the special relationship.
The Metro leads with the attack by a refugee in France. Horror at the playground, stabbed in their pushchairs, says the headline.
And the Sun, understandably, also leads on the same story. Pram horror on France holiday. British girl, age 3, knifed in the park.
The Times reports on the crisis in the mortgage market. HSBC becomes the big lender to withdraw loans with only hours' notice.
Well, join us now to go through the papers in more detail this morning is GBNEWS senior political commentator Nigel Nelson, alongside writer and commentator Candice Holdsworth. Top of the morning to both of you. So, Nigel, before we go into the stories, peak age for things that cheer you up, 32. Sorry to predict. You may
I'm obviously way out of that one now.
But what kind of things reach you? What little things?
Well, looking at the list, I was a bit surprised to see a cup of tea, a morning cup of tea at number 13 on the Daily Mail list. That I'd put. Well, I don't drink tea, but I have a coffee first thing in the morning. Great. That's a great start to the morning.
Is that your number 1, do you think?
I think that might go to my number 1, and then we would certainly go for the afternoon nap, especially after doing a breakfast show.
Yeah, beautiful. And okay, so segueing into your story, Rishi has been in America. A small act of kindness, or has he come home once again with an empty deal for Britain?
Well, no deal at all, really, which is the problem there. This much heralded Atlantic Declaration is really a statement of intent. What he hasn't come back with, although he never thought he would get it, would be the kind of trade deal that we were promised with America following Brexit, and was also in the 2019 Conservative election manifesto.
Yeah.
We're not getting any of that. Some of the good things that come out of this, I think that finally we've ditched this idea of special relationship. The Americans never liked it very much. We were the ones who kept pushing it. And I think probably it's had its day that Rishi Sunak now calls it the indispensable alliance. A lot more syllables in that, but anyway, it's good that the special relationship has sort of bitten the dust.
But we were promised a full fat trade deal. This is 92 million quid's worth of stuff around green energy, car batteries and solar panels. There's nothing in there for British businesses on the whole. There's nothing in there for British farmers. It's an advantageous access to exporting to America. This is a one-way ticket to America.
Yes, that's right. I mean, this is the point about it. There's nothing. Everything we were promised before hasn't come to pass. Now, obviously, had President Trump stayed around a bit longer, it maybe we'd have got that trade deal, but he seemed a lot keener on it than President Biden said.
You're pro-Trump now, are you, Nigel?
Sorry?
You're pro-Trump all of a sudden?
Oh, no, I'm not pro-Trump at all. I hope he doesn't come back as president, although I fear he might. But in fairness, he was the one who was most likely to give us a proper trade deal.
OK, so Candice, turning to you now. Is this Rishi's fault? Or is it symptomatic of the fact that actually Joe Biden just has a rather dim view of the United Kingdom?
It's possible. I think that the world has changed since Brexit. I mean, there are all sorts of different concerns that have emerged since then. I find it quite interesting that it's been reported as cooperation now that we're having a more adversarial relationship with China. So they were saying things like, we're going to be cooperating on artificial intelligence because apparently that's going to be crucial to the future of warfare. Kind of gives you a shudder. You don't even want to think about that. But I think it's important that we do work together on those things.
Candice, let's stick with you, shall we, in the Daily Telegraph. And Kyiv has begun its counter-offensive. We've been talking about this for a long time, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Everyone's been talking about the Ukraine counter-offensive. So this is on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. They've launched it. We're going to have to see how it progresses. Apparently, they have met stiff resistance, according to this article, from the Russians. And the Ukrainians are understandably being quite cagey about it. They don't want to reveal too much. They obviously need a breakthrough. I mean, things have just been getting worse and worse and worse. And you've got the blowing up of this dam in southern Ukraine, which has apparently destroyed a lot of the grain fields. Things are just getting worse and worse and worse for Ukraine. And I don't see how it's going to be for them in the future. They are on their knees now.
OK, Nigel, let's move on to another story. This is one that's sure to get pulses racing, I think, in GB News land, and that is the transgender doctor row. This is on the front page of the Daily Mail today. Patients have no right to know if their doctor is trans.
Yeah, I think the headline goes a bit further than the small print does when you look into it, that probably common sense will come into play, and it will be up to care providers to decide whether this policy would be introduced. But the idea broadly is that if you want to see a woman doctor, you might well end up with a trans male. Or if you want to see a man, a trans female, and the question then comes down to, can you refuse to do that? The suggestion is, if you feel really strongly about it, yes, you can. It does seem to me that there's no reason why a trans doctor is any different from any other doctor, and so on the basis of that, I certainly would have no problem seeing a trans doctor or a non-binary doctor, and I would be happy to use whatever pronouns that they preferred. So whatever would make them feel comfortable is fine. But I'm sure that there will be certainly some women who might find it uncomfortable, and it sounds like they would make provision for that.
Well, I mean, you'd hope so. It does say, to be fair, that if a patient's a female patient, I think this is about women's safety, personally, and if they've suffered a sexual trauma or violence, or it's an intimate examination, they have the right to refuse, which may or may not be kind of undertaken. But it goes further, and that is, I think this is, Candice, this is about, forget about patient first. This is like pronouns and pride first, because it says in here, this is a part of a drive for inclusivity and diversity, but patients don't care about that. Don't patients have the right to choose who inspects and examines them?
Well, yes, certainly. Whenever I've been in undergoing a breast examination or a gynecological examination, I've always been told, would you prefer a female to do this? And it's always been made very plain to me that I can have someone of the same sex carry out that examination. So I think that's commonplace anyway. And personally, I don't have a strong preference. I had a male midwife when I was giving birth. He was amazing. But for many women, they do. And they absolutely need to be able to do that, because there are very good reasons why people would not like to be examined in those moments by someone of the opposite sex.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I just worry, Nigel, that this is actually a shift of not the patient being first, but the feelings of doctors and the NHS first. That's not the way it should be.
No,
the patient should be king, the customer is king. We're paying for this.
Yes,
I
kind of read into it. It wasn't actually a matter of putting doctors first in this case. It was just being a bit more inclusive about a doctor's feelings. So it seemed to me reasonable to actually say, I'm presuming that they would be quite happy to admit to their patients that they are trans or non-binary or whatever, because if they want particular pronouns used, that would give a clue to the patient that this is what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Okay, Candice, let's go to a really horrific story that I know is upsetting, of course, so many people around the world today, and it is this park horror in Annecy in southeastern France, and a British girl, just 3 years old, still fighting for her life.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I was actually very concerned I would be able to keep my composure with this story. I mean, I have children the same age. Many people do. Everyone was shocked by this story yesterday. I mean, what we know about him so far, his name is Abdel Masih H. We know that he's a Syrian refugee. Apparently, he has a 3-year-old child as well. So you wonder what would motivate a father to attack other children like this. I mean, it's the most horrifying thing you can imagine, a playground turned into a scene of murder. Apparently, he has no psychiatric history that we know of, but I can't imagine why you would do something like this unless you were deranged in some way. One thing, though, that really struck me watching the footage of this, though, was the bravery of the bystanders who were pushing him away with backpacks, a knife with backpacks. I think when you see children being hurt, maybe something primal emerges. And you don't run away, you fight.
That's the guy there. For those who can't see the image, there's a guy with a backpack who'd been in the bog at the same time, and he was swinging his backpack at the knife man while the attack was going on. The knife man actually went for the guy with the backpack at one point and tried to take him out too, but he persisted in trying to shoo him away.
It's incredible.
But that guy needs some sort of open bravery medal
100%.
In France, an absolute hero of the day. But Nigel, the next question surely needs to be, are these events likely to become more commonplace? Because we effectively don't know who is getting into countries. We don't know where they come from oftentimes. We don't know their background. We take their word they're fleeing a war zone. Is this an isolated incident, or could it become more commonplace?
That's what we don't know. I think that we have to now not try and extrapolate from this one incident that there is a problem with asylum seekers in every country. We know it wasn't Islamist terrorism because the guy is a Christian. We don't know what motivated him. It may be, as Candy said, that he's deranged or whatever. It certainly sounds like that. But to try and draw an inference that we are at risk then from asylum seekers based on this one case, I think it's probably going a bit too far.
And we're also not aware of all the details in this case just yet. They will reveal themselves in the next few days. There is an investigation underway in Annecy, of course. We'll bring that to you on GB News. But Nigel, Candice, really, really good to see you both this morning. You're back with us in the next hour, aren't you?
Thank you.